Hello and happy 2022, everyone. My name is Christine Goodman, and I am the Director of the Office of Cultural Affairs here for the City of Jersey City. And welcome to our 2022 special event, Permitting and Planning Open House. Due to COVID, we have created a recording of this open house, which you will be able to refer back to throughout the year and also share with other people who might be interested in viewing all the information associated with permitting your special event in 2022. Albert, next slide, please. So the Office of Cultural Affairs is a division of the Mayor's Office for the City of Jersey City. And we are involved in all things arts and culture here for the city. And a big component of what we do is permitting events. We'll get into more information as far as what events, type of events fall under our permitting. But if you are looking to have a gathering of the public on public property, our office will work with you to make sure that that's done safely and is permitted in every way you need to have your event permitted. In addition to event permitting, Cultural Affairs also has we host our own events. We have a concert series, movies in the park. We're very active in terms of the programming we bring to the residents of Jersey City. And we also work to support our arts and culture organizations with larger projects like the Arts and Culture Trust Fund and other ways that we can help support a sustainable, robust arts and culture sector for our city. And if we can go to the next slide, we are going to introduce you now to our wonderful Cultural Affairs staff. This is one portion of our Cultural Affairs team, the permitting team that works very hard year-round to help you have successful events. And so, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind.
Hi, my name is Lisa Catania. I work in the permitting department as the Assistant Supervisor and Customer Service Associate.
Tara?
Hi, I'm Tara Castaldo. I'm the Program Development Specialist for the Office of Cultural Affairs.
Leotis?
Good afternoon. I am Leotis Clyburn, Community Relations Specialist with the City of Jersey City Office of Cultural Affairs.
Hi, my name is Migdalia Pagan Milano. I am the Program Coordinator of Special Events. I can assist you with flag raisings, events in council chambers, in addition to special events that take place within Jersey City.
Thanks, Migdalia. Albert?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Albert Rodriguez. I am the audio visual aide, and I also work at the Office of Cultural Affairs.
So in addition to our special events team here at Cultural Affairs, the Mary McLeod Bethune Life Center is also under Cultural Affairs, as well as the Jersey City Mural Arts Program, JCMAP. So if you have questions about those programs, you can also reach out to us here at Cultural Affairs. Next slide, please. This is our staff directory, which you can also find on our website, and we'll walk you through more of that later. And now I'd like to pass it over to Migdalia, who will talk about our event at City Hall.
Hi. Well, if you have interest in raising a flag to celebrate your culture, we are a very diverse community, and we and the mayor appreciate that. So we will help you in any way that we can, creating a program, flyers, posting your event on social media. And if you would like to have some event in the chambers, you can certainly reach out to me, and we can help coordinate that. In addition to other special events. My information can be is posted on the website. So please reach out to me. I'll be happy to assist you.
Thank you, Dalia. Albert, let's go through the next couple of slides, which just give a very brief overview. of the form. This is the form that if you're looking to have an event inside City Hall, you can reach out to Migdalia for. Go ahead, you can, and we will require insurance for having an event inside council chambers. And if you're looking to have a proclamation or citation for your event, we will need 60 days notice for that. Thanks, Albert. Next slide. So now as we move into why everybody's here, our special event permitting application for 2022. Leotis is going to take us through the types of events that need permits.
Hello, everyone. I would now go over with you the permit types and their definitions.
Next slide, Albert.
There are 7 permit types. 3 permit types are issued by the Office of Cultural Affairs: the block party, the parade permit, and the park permit. Block party is an event sponsored by a nonprofit block association registered with the City of Jersey City Resident Response Center. Parade is a procession of people that is organized along a street spanning more than 1 block. A park permit covers any small gathering that takes place inside a city park that does not include live entertainment or amplified sound, does not include sales or distribution of food by a vendor, and does not include sales or distribution of alcohol. There are 2 permit types issued by the Division of Commerce: the carnival permit and the festival permit. Carnival is a temporary outdoor event open to the public that features mechanical amusement rides, games, vendors selling food, and also features amplified sound. Festival is a public event that requires the use of a public space, such as a city park or a public street, featuring live entertainment, food vendors, and merchandise goods. Festivals may take place for 1 day or may last for several days. And finally, there are 2 permit types issued by the Department of Health and Human Services: the farmers market permit and the flea market permit. Farmers market is a temporary market established in a public space where farmers or their representatives sell the food that they produced directly to consumers. The farmers market permit is an annual permit from April through March. Flea market is a temporary outdoor market featuring vendors who sell or trade non-food products. Flea markets operate from May 1st through September 30th and also operate from October 1st through April 30th. Christine?
Thank you, Leotis. Now we're going to move on to the 6-step process of applying for an event. Next slide. So when you have decided that you want to have an event and it falls under one of the categories that Leotis had outlined, you're going to reach out to Lisa Catania, wave your hand, Lisa, and you are going to send her the following information: the name of your proposed event, the date, and the location of where you're looking to have this event, and the name of the nonprofit partner or host nonprofit for your event. We will then send you a DocuSign link, and you have 30 days to complete the application. The DocuSign link will expire after 30 days. So please, when you reach out to us for that link and you're ready to start the process, keep in mind that you will need to submit the information or start the process over if you've gone beyond the 30 days. Once you finish the application, the platform will send an email letting you know that it has been submitted. This does not mean that it is completed the circulation and that you have your permit. It means that we have received your DocuSign application. If you have any issues with the application itself, you can reach out to our staff that you see here and they can help you with this process. After we receive your completed application, we will reach out to you if there's anything incomplete or if we need any additional information, or if any of the people who engage with the application in the next step have any follow-up questions for you. Once that application goes into circulation for review and signatures on the city side, that is a process we'll talk you through later in this open house. But your application circulates through all city departments that engage with your type of event. They review your application and then they sign off approvals. Once the application has completed and we've collected all signatures, there are follow-up steps that we come to you with to let you know if you need to, for example, now go get your no parking signs, or you need to pay some of the invoices for the different city services that have costs associated with them. Once all of that is complete, you will then have your permit issued to you. And then you will have, at that point, you can start promoting your event. And then the day of the event, you will then be on site to execute your event from start to finish. So that's a basic overview of our 6 steps. You want to go to the next slide? Okay, so DocuSign and the digital application. We use DocuSign, which means that when you are completing your application, it is not how it used to be, which is a paper permit that's about the size of a phone book that you run around the entire city. And one of the really great developments in our permitting over the last administration through the guidance and the leadership of the mayor is that we've moved everything digital. So that way, once you submit your information, it's circulated for those signatures without you having to physically run around from office to office to office. So the hope is that we can help you have an efficient and successful event and make sure everybody is on the same page about what you're planning. Next slide. Once you reach out to us and you request a link to start completing your permit, you will receive a DocuSign email. The email does not come from any of our staff, it comes from DocuSign. So if you have received confirmation that the application has been sent to you and you do not see it, please check your spam folder, because oftentimes the DocuSign email is sitting there in the spam. So it will come from DocuSign and it looks like this, and you click on the yellow box to start the process. This is the first page of the application. You're going to fill out the particulars of your event, when you're looking to have the event, where, and the title of your event. The lead organizer, that is you as the applicant, your full name. The entity that is hosting the event. So if you're the individual completing the application, you would then, for the entity, you would put the organization name. If you are also the nonprofit, you would put your nonprofit name again on the nonprofit partner and fill out your information. The phone number for the public is really the one that you feel comfortable having shared if people contact our office looking for information because they want to know about your parade and they have a question, or they want to join your festival and come out and support. So that would be the number that will go on your flyer. So why do we ask for you to attach a nonprofit to your event? A 501c3 registered with the IRS nonprofit is required for all events on public property. And the reason why is because our use of public space is for the public. We do not have private entities have private events in parks or in streets. If you are having a birthday party, that would probably be one of the only things that would fall under a private event that would not require a nonprofit sponsor. But we'll talk a little more about that a little later in our frequently asked questions section. So your nonprofit partner would be either you or an organization that you have a meaningful partnership with for this event. So what that means is you have a nonprofit organization that is taking all of the liability, responsibility, and partnering with you to present this event. So you can find very creative ways too to have a nonprofit with you for this festival or street fair or whatever it is you're planning. There could be ways to help promote them and their cause. Or if you, of course, are a nonprofit, you could do that. If you're in the district of a nonprofit, like a special improvement district, they are nonprofits. They're also partners that will sometimes partner with an organization that wants to have an event that is not a nonprofit themselves. So if you have any questions about that process, again, you can reach out to our office. That's 201-547-6921, and we can talk you through this nonprofit piece of it. But a nonprofit is required. You would put their name here and attach their IRS paperwork, their confirmation letter from the IRS to this application. Start time and end time of your event. No event is permitted past 10 p.m. So that means that all sound and music must be turned off 1 hour before that. So if your event ends at 8 p.m., that means your last performer or your DJ, or if you have any sound component, would be done an hour before that time. The break, and so that would be your advertised time. The setup and breakdown times, those are the times that you anticipate needing, and really give some thought to the different components of your event. Do you have to have a street closure? Do you think some cars will need to be towed as part of your street closure? You'll need to deal with tracking down car owners to clear the streets for your events. These things all take time, and they will all work into your setup time. The setup time also will be the time that you have your official street closure. So if you are closing a street, that means that the off-duty officers that you will need to pay for start at the time of your setup time, not the time that the public arrives, because you will need them to close the streets so you can set up for your event. So factor that into your planning and your budget, that the setup time is the time that your expenses in terms of street closures do start. Your organizers will need to be on site at that setup time all the way to the end of your breakdown time as well. Attendance, you would put for 2022 what you anticipate. If you had your event in 2021, you can put the numbers that you actually had for last year's event. The description is very helpful because that helps us understand your vision. So remember, you're filling out this application telling us how many people, where it's going to be, but this is your time to really give us a picture of what you're trying to accomplish so that we can understand your organization's mission, how you're going to serve the public, how this is such a great event. That's the place to put it. Next slide. Here you'll attach your certificate of insurance. That is a $1 million policy with the City of Jersey City, its officers and employees named as additional insured. If you have any questions about insurance, you can reach out to our office. As far as additional insurance, that is determined by our risk manager, who is one of the signers on your application. So if the risk manager decides that you will need additional automotive insurance or workers' comp insurance, that will be noted, and you will be receive a notification that the risk manager has said that you need to acquire additional insurance. But for the majority of events, this will be your additional insured, the certificate of insurance with the city named as additional insured $1 million policy. If you have an alcohol component for your event, it will then be a $2 million policy instead of $1 million. Also, if you need a little more time for your insurance, if you're waiting on getting that certificate back from your broker, please reach out to us as you're completing this application, because our risk manager is the last person to sign. So we don't want you to hold up your whole application if you're just waiting for this one piece of paper that you're going to get in a couple days. We'll talk you through how to just get your application in if you have everything else completed and you're just waiting on that from your insurance. On a rare occasion, the risk manager will grant a waiver of insurance. These are for organizations that do not have their own insurance already in place, or for some other reason, they would like to state a case to the risk manager that they are not able to get insurance. In that case, you would attach a letter addressed to the risk manager of the city of Jersey City, outlining why you are requesting a waiver. In this instance, what this means is that you are asking the city to accept liability, full liability for your event that you're presenting. That's why this is a rare occasion that this is granted. And please keep in mind that because the risk manager is the last one to sign, if he denies your waiver, that's going to be a very long process to wait to hear that that's denied, to then have to go back and find a broker that will give you additional insured certificate and liability insurance to be able to have your event. So if the insurance piece is a piece to think about at the start of completing an application, so you can line that up and be ready to go and execute your permit in a timely fashion. All right, so there's the city disclaimer as well that you would check, and that is about taking on your risk. Next slide here. The location of the event. Please keep in mind that if you're having an event in a park, you may not cook in a park. You may not distribute alcohol in a park, and or host a private catered event. Private property is here because we will circulate a permit for you if you're having an event on private property. When I started this explanation, I did say that we permit all events on public property. So what is public property? Public property is everything that is owned and managed by our municipality, the city of Jersey City. So that is a public park, that is a street, any public right of way, that plazas, these all fall under our permitting. But if you're having an event on private property, and where we see this really come into play is if you're hosting a festival inside of a parking lot, sometimes organizers will want to fill out an application, all the parts that are relevant to us so that we can circulate for a notification. And why would you do that? You're having an event in a parking lot. It's a large music festival, but you don't need to get a permit from us because you've got permission from the property owner. Well, something to consider is there could be some major street closures that are planned around you. There could be a parade that's passing right by that's going to shut down every street around your private event. But none of us would know that, and we couldn't get you on the same page and everybody on the city on the same page if you hadn't let us know that your event is happening. So if you're having an event on private property and it's a large festival, we do encourage you to reach out to us for an application so we can circulate it as a notification. It helps everyone. Also, we do get a lot of questions. Oh, what is this big event that's happening down the street? And if we don't know about it, we also can't help you promote it. And that we always want to do as well. Next, you'll attach a site map for your event. The site map is important because this is your time to lay out what is reasonable and possible for your event. Where you're going to set up, like the cross streets, what elements are going to be set up. Here's my 30 by 30 tent that's in the street. We can see that all on a map. It's really important to have a map. As professionals, you can get it. You know, I know sometimes people can only sketch something out by hand, but really having a good picture of the size of land that you're dealing with and what components you're looking to bring in is very, very helpful. And it also avoids a lot of last minute moving stuff around while you're on site and you have food vendors arriving and you didn't plan for enough space to fit all your food vendors because you're blocking fire hydrants. All of this comes back to that site map and it being a really good thing to be as detailed as possible. One thing we see a lot of our organizers do is go to Google Maps or Google Earth, and there they'll do a screenshot and go in from there to lay out their festival or special event. That's a wonderful option too. If you don't have somebody that does mapping and map layout, Google Earth, Google Maps is really helpful. So that's where you would attach that. If you're requesting a full street closure, you'll need to give us the name of the street and the cross streets. If you're requesting a partial street or curb closure, that means no parking. A curb closure means I want to close this curb so no cars can park here. That's where you'll put in information there. If it's on multiple days, will the street remain closed overnight? Yes or no? And you'll give us the time of the start and the end. You may not pick up no parking signs, which you will need for either a full street closure or a no parking signs or curb closure. You will need to get this permit in place with traffic and engineering before you go to the no parking division to pick up your no parking signs. When you go to no parking, you'll need to bring your completed application and that permit from traffic and engineering. So please keep in mind that you do need to bring information to them when you go to pick up those signs. So a lot of times we have people reach out to our office because they try to get no parking signs for their private property event. And we do have a permit process. We have a notification process that we go through because that's what traffic and engineering, that's what traffic and engineering need to issue the permit. And that's what the no parking office will need in order to give you those signs. So this process is important. Even if you're just looking for some no parking signs, you do still need to go through our office. Will parking be prohibited or restricted during your event? Okay, so if you're restricting parking, you do need to hang your signs at least 48 hours. They need to be posted 48 hours before your event. You cannot enforce no parking signs if you hang them up on the poles a few hours before your festival. Our residents need enough time to be able to plan and move their cars for your event. So that's why it's important to get your applications in as soon as possible, to start this process with us so that it can all be completed. You can pick up your no parking signs in enough time and have those signs on the poles 48 hours before the start of your closure. Important timeline to keep in mind there. So for our public safety component, a moving assembly, as Leotis had said, is a parade, a procession, a walk, a run, or a cycle. We're asking you how many people are expected and what components. Are you having floats? Are you having carts? Are you having motorized vehicles? How many people? And then we need to know the assemble time and the kickoff time, which is the time you step off for your parade. When it finishes, and then we'll need the route. Also, something to keep in mind for those of you who are viewing this, who are planning a parade, the City Hall, in front of City Hall, where a lot of our parades end, has changed quite a bit. There's a bike lane, there's the outdoor seating. So the floats cannot make that turn anymore. So we are no longer placing a stage at City Hall. The stage would be placed on Montgomery Street and you would pass City Hall along Montgomery Street. So again, that turn from Montgomery onto Grove Street, which a lot of parades make on their route, or it would be from Columbus onto Grove Street. You may not make those turns anymore because of the changes to the street. So keep that in mind with your route. Next slide. So for our fire safety, we ask if you're using a generator over 55 gallons, if you're installing electric wiring, and these are items that will check off, they'll trigger a conversation with fire safety to make sure that you have proper permitting for those elements. If you're planning fireworks, that means any kind of fireworks, you do require a resolution to go through city council. So if you plan fireworks, your first step is to complete this application and get a resolution in front of city council. And after that resolution goes through city council, it then goes through fire safety. So if you're planning fireworks, that's about 3 months that you need to plan in advance to make sure you have all the paperwork in line in time for your event. We do not allow any sparklers at our festivals. The reason why is because from fire safety, this can cause injury. People are very densely packed together, and having sparks like sparklers, pardon me, can cause fires. They can burn people around you without you realizing it. And for those concerns, the fire department will not sign off if you're planning any sparkler devices for your festival. So please keep that in mind when you're planning a festival. Will your event include rides or inflatable amusements? For bouncy houses, please keep in mind if you're planning a festival that has bouncy houses, they do need the state tag on the side of them, which shows that they have been inspected by the state of New Jersey. I was just talking to an inflatable company that we use frequently here at Cultural Affairs, and they were telling me how New Jersey in particular has very different guidelines from other states in the US. So if you're having an event and you're planning to order a bouncy house off of Amazon, that is not a bouncy house that you can put out for public use. It is not protected, and it is a huge liability for anyone who is presenting this event. So if you're looking to have a bouncy house, you must ask your vendor, do you have the state tags and have your inflatables or rides been inspected by the state of New Jersey? Those are the only ones that are allowable for these type of events. Due to COVID, we are asking that bouncy houses be open air, and that's for everyone's safety. Having the closed top bouncy houses where you have children bouncing around inside in that sort of closed environment, it is ripe for spreading COVID. So open air bouncy slides, those are some good options. Bouncy mazes, bouncy obstacle courses. Those are some things to look into. If you're having a block party, which is a different kind of animal from a festival, the block party must be, as Leota said, registered through the Residence Response Center. You may not put bouncy houses in your block party. That is not part of what is within the spirit of bringing your neighbors out to grill and connect with one another. That moves into rides and amusements, which turns your event into a festival. So please keep that in mind if you're looking to have a block party. Some people do call block parties, they call a festival or a street fair a block party. Block parties are only those that are registered through the Residence Response Center as official block parties. So if you're calling your event a block party and you're not a block association, you're actually having a festival. So just keep that in mind in terms of our terminology. Moving on, we ask how many tents you're setting up. If you get into extra large size tents, I believe tents larger than 900 square feet, they will require additional permits. So that's where you will let us know if you're planning something that it is really beyond those standard 10 by 10, 10 by 20 tents. That's what most people use. Will your food vendors be using open flame on site? If yes, you'll need an open flame permit from fire safety. And if your organizers are cooking on site, that does also need a permit from fire safety. And you will also need to keep a barrier between the public and those grills that are cooking. Will your organization or vendor be distributing food for free? And this is the point for the health department, you will explain if you're giving away food for free, if you have food vendors, if you're going to have food trucks. And then we will work with you to get the health department the list of the food vendors you'll be working with, whether those are tented vendors or food truck vendors, to make sure that they are properly licensed. If animals are involved in the event, that means most likely are you having a petting zoo? Exotic animals are not allowed per state statute in any petting zoo. And we can let you know what those animals are that fall outside your standard animals for a petting zoo. And you will also need to have hand sanitizer on site to make sure that everybody can wash their hands before and after handling the animals. That's why we ask for the species, is because of those exotic animals and to make sure that you're really sticking with what's typically in a petting zoo. We want to know the farm and the vendor that you're working with to make sure that it's a reputable licensed vendor for those animals. For alcohol, if your event will have alcohol, again, the alcohol may not be served within parks. You will need a separate permit through the state. That is the ABC, the Alcoholic Beverage Commission. We can talk you through the different options if you are looking to sell alcohol at your event. And there will be additional officers required on site if you do have an alcohol component. And as I mentioned earlier, you will need to have additional insurance if you plan to have alcohol on site. If you're looking to have an event in the park vicinity and you're looking to have food vendors or to have alcohol, typically that would mean a street closure, and those elements would be contained to the street. So those do have additional expenses attached to them as well, something to keep in mind. There is a separate process for that ABC permit. So again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us to talk you through all of that. You do need about 60 days if you're looking to have an alcohol element. It is definitely not something to add at the very last minute to your event. But if you are an organization that has gotten your special event permit through the state to serve alcohol, it's a one-day social affair permit, it's what it's called. They can set you up with an online account where you can then apply for a permit virtually, and they can give you the permit virtually, which saves a lot of time. But you have to already be in their system, and there's some paperwork around insurance that you need to submit to the state to get into their records. But if you're a nonprofit, say I'm going to be doing 3 concerts a year as a nonprofit and I want to be able to sell alcohol, it is worth it to get your online account set up with the state so that every time you're planning, you can just go ahead into your account there, give the information and get that permit process going in plenty of time. But the state does require, if you go online and you have that online account, you need 30 days before your event in order to have that done virtually. And they will block off the calendar as you're completing your virtual permit for that ABC permit to sell alcohol. And they will not let you submit an application if your event falls within those 30 days. So it's just some advanced planning, and just a little tip for some of our folks that do have multiple events a year or plan to be doing this regularly and want to set up that online account with the state. For the Department of Recreation, they supply the stages that are requested for our festivals and our parades. The stages, again, they come out of the Department of Recreation. They are not cultural affairs stages. So they do need approval from that department. If you let us know which stage you would like, you would check the box and the dimensions are there. We could also send you a follow-up document that's got pictures of what these stages look like. The small showmobile looks like a typical showmobile that you've seen at street fairs. The front comes down, it's got the metal back and sides, it has no power. So if you need to, if you want to have a performer or have people get on stage with a microphone, you need to also consider you'll need a generator and you'll need the sound equipment to go on that. The large showmobile is just a little bit bigger than that showmobile and also has no power. So keep that in mind. The main metal stage, it opens like this, it comes down. So it's one flat stage. It has no top on top of it. So if you're planning something for the middle of the summer, just keep in mind, it's just one massive flat stage. Sometimes people choose to use the large stage with the back up and the flat part out. You could do that. And that gives you a little bit of a background, if that makes sense. So that's what the large stage is. And again, there's no power with that either. This year, there are hourly rates that apply to the use of the stage, and we will go through where you can find those rates, but there is a minimum, I believe it's a minimum 4 hours to rent the stage. And so when you're doing your budgeting for your event, please keep in mind that there are costs associated with the stage and that it does need to be approved that it is available for use through the Department of Recreation. Next slide. Entertainment. So will your event have live entertainment or amplified sound? Please let us know. We want to know your sound company. We'd like to know if you're bringing in a stage. And again, where your map is going to really come in handy is to make sure that stage can fit in and out safely to wherever you're planning to have your event. And we'd like the contact information as well. If you're bringing in a sound company, if you're renting a large stage, keep in mind that event organizers must be on site from the minute that first person arrives until the last person leaves. So if you, as the event lead organizer or somebody associated with your organization is going to be the point person, please make sure that that point person is chosen ahead of time, because they will need to be there to receive the stage, to show them where to set up, to make sure it's where you want it, to make sure the stage can be packed up and the sound is removed from the site and everything is cleaned up. So if you're bringing in production elements, please add that to your planning. Amplified sound, something also to keep in mind is because your event is permitted, that does not mean that you can go as loud as you want. We do have to be considerate of our neighbors. Having a permit does still mean that you have to adhere to acceptable decibel levels. And if you have set up with very large speakers and they can hear you 3 blocks away in their living room, and they do decide to call the district police, the police can come down and ask you to turn it down. So keep in mind, we're a densely populated city, and we want to make sure that we have these events that are also a success for everyone, and that means being respectful of our neighbors. Moving on, the Department of Public Works Division of Buildings and Streets, they handle the barricades. We are able to supply you barricades, and most of the time we can meet your request numbers. Sometimes, you know, if you're having a very large event, it will fall outside of the amount of barricades that we can deliver to you. So that's just something to keep in mind for your planning. But barricades are the bicycle racks that they're metal and they have the 2 feet and they have the bars along the side. They're 8 feet long. You will let us know there if you need them. You will need barricades for street closures. So if you're closing 2 ends of the street, you need enough barricades to go across both sides of the street. If you have a stage, you'll need barricades with a buffer in front of your stage to prevent people from running up to the stage. That's why you have a buffer. If you have cooking vendors, you'll need barricades around your cooking vendors. And if you anticipate long lines, you may want some barricades to help with the queuing of your attendees as they wait for the food trucks or the food vendors. We'll want to know the cross street to have those barricades dropped. They're typically dropped if you have an event on Saturday. A lot of people have events on Saturday. The barricades are dropped Friday morning. So if you're concerned that you don't have the barricades, you can always go down the day before and check and see if they're there. You will be responsible, your team, for moving those barricades wherever you need them for your festival and then putting them back where we dropped them. Typically, 2 people can move the barricades fine. It's just something to keep in mind that we don't also come with the crew that's going to set everything up the way you like it. We'll drop the barricades and then you will need to get them back to where you picked them up from. Department of Public Works Sanitation. These are the other elements that are involved with the sanitary aspects of your events. Proper cleanup is a real priority. We want to make sure we leave all of our public spaces the way we found them. And what that means is having a street sweeper. There is a cost associated with these elements. You do receive an invoice from the Department of Public Works. We do not issue the invoice, the Department of Public Works does, and you will need to pay that invoice before your event can happen. So if you are going to have a festival, you need to receive that bill, you need to pay it in order to have your event. And so please make sure you leave enough time. That is for a street sweeper, which is required. The street sweeper goes through at the end of your event to clean up any debris. Those are required for parades, processions, street festivals, especially any events with food vendors. And a dumpster or a packer truck, that is to come and pick up your garbage that you have accumulated. So whether you're having a dumpster that's usually set right outside of your event footprint where you can put all your trash bags in, or we designate a place where you put all the trash bags and a packer truck comes to pick that up, there is a cost associated with that. If you don't have trash cans, and that's trash and recycling cans, because we do recycle, we can supply those, and there is a cost per trash can. And we can also supply bags for you, and there is a cost for those bags. And then you will also, they're wire trash cans that kind of look like this, and you put the bag on top. At the end, you fold them up and you put them all in the pile where you got them from, so DPW can come pick them up. We also have a clean team that will come and work the event and pick up the garbage. This cleaning company, these are city employees. There is a cost. You will need a supervisor along with the team to make sure that people are constantly changing out the trash bags, bagging up the trash. These are required for large festivals. If you're supplying your own cleaning company, you would give us the information there. Otherwise, we will bill you for the city services. For the Division of Commerce, you will let us know here if you're going to be selling goods. That means if you have like craft vendors or people selling clothes or soaps or anything like that as part of your event. Will alcohol be consumed? Again, that kicks it to commerce because they're part of that ABC license process. And will you be conducting raffles? If you plan on running a raffle or another game of chance, that is an additional license that needs to be secured through the state in advance. And that does take time. Again, I would leave 90 days if you need to start the process with the state in order to do your raffle on site. Next slide. If you're having your event filmed professionally, so that means, do you have a film crew that's going to be setting up and filming your event, or do you have a drone? Are you having an event that's going to be used for a commercial purpose as well, like you're filming some sort of commercial? This all needs to go through our Film JC department, and they will follow up with you regarding additional permits that you would need for that. Keep in mind, drones do require flight plans to be registered with the FAA. So there is a process for having a drone. I know that drones are regularly available these days, just like bouncy houses. If you got your drone off of Amazon, that does not mean that you can, fly it above people's heads in a crowded area. That could cause injury, bodily harm. So that does need to go through our film department to talk through the proper way to plan a flight path through your event. Basic necessities. We do require you to have water on site, clean, drinkable water for public events. That could be bottled water. It could be a water station with cups. You could be selling bottled water. That's fine, but we do need to make sure that you do have access to water on site. There are some instances where we can help you for very large festivals, work with Suez to have a water buffalo on site that would provide free drinking water for the public. But due to COVID, the availability is very limited. So if you would like to have a conversation about free water for the public in partnership with Suez, we can make that connection for you and we can see what's possible. Access to toilets. People don't like to think about this, but it is very important that you have enough porta-johns for your events. We have a little chart there that helps you kind of understand how many porta-johns you need based on how many people you're expecting. It is required that you have a place for people to use the bathroom, and that you also have a way for persons with disabilities to be able to use those bathrooms. So if you get porta-johns, one of them for every 3 must be an ADA restroom. For every 2, one must be an ADA restroom. Please let us know here who your porta-john company is going to be. Make sure you mark on your map where those porta-johns are going to be placed, and that you walk the area where you're having your event ahead of time and determine where those porta-johns are going to be placed. And that once you arrange for those porta-johns, you have somebody on your team meeting them to show them where to put the porta-johns as well. What you don't want is to not have that conversation ahead of time and to have this company make a wild guess as to where to put the toilets, and it's right where you have your stage planned. We want to make sure that you have placed them where you would like them to go. Severe weather and rescheduling. I know what goes into doing these events. We all on our cultural affairs team know how much time and effort you put into planning your events. And we would love, in a best case scenario, for you to be able to put a rain date or an alternate weather date on your application. The reason why we cannot accommodate that in your application is because of the city services that are attached to your event, and because we're talking about public space that is shared by the public. So whereas having a weather plan is important, you should think about what will happen if it rains on your event date and other possible dates that you could move your event to. In the event that you need to move it, we will work with you to find a date, but we cannot guarantee when you submit this application that if you're going to have your event on Saturday, July 16th, that the next Saturday, July 25th, you can have your event in the same place. There are a lot of people that use these same spaces. And so that's why it would prevent us from guaranteeing you a time or a date. For planning, I can say there is a chance that if your event is on a Saturday that we could move it to the Sunday, but you will need to be in touch with us and make that weather call as far enough in advance as possible to be able to accommodate a quick turnaround like that. If your event is on a Saturday, you should be making that call still during the workday on Friday if you plan to cancel Saturday. Barring any natural disasters or unforeseen circumstances, we will need to know on Friday before our offices close that you intend to not hold your event the next day. Also, if you're having entertainment, that's also something to think about with rescheduling. If you're going to have 10 dance troupes, maybe you want to have them, have a side conversation with them about a couple of date options that would work should you have to move the event. That way you're ready to go once we can greenlight a new date for your event. You sign in this red portion here for indemnification, to indemnify, and then you sign at the bottom. And then this is the application that's submitted after we talk about your safety plan. Next slide. The event safety plan is a new component due to COVID. We want to know how you are going to be responding to COVID-19 safety measures for your public event. We understand that this is a constantly changing situation, We, as the city of Jersey City, adhere to any executive orders that come from the governor. So if you're wondering, is there going to be a limit on outdoor gatherings or indoor gatherings for your event? You would check with Trenton, you would check with the state of New Jersey to see if the governor has issued any indoor or outdoor gathering limits or special event gathering limits. And that is what we will use to guide you for events. If the governor says we are not allowing any outdoor gatherings, all events until further notice will be immediately canceled, and we will notify you of that. If there is, we are assuming COVID will still be a consideration. We would like for you to think about how you are going to respond in, in this public realm to your event. That means, will you make masks available? Will you make hand sanitizer available? Allow for social distancing with your events, require pre-registration, do temperature checks. If whatever the guidance is as we come upon the actual event time, please check with us, with the state. But on the next page, you can go to the next slide. This is where you will outline what you know so far. We can tell you that if you leave this blank, this will delay your application. The health department and public safety want to see that you are thinking seriously about COVID-19. It is still very much a reality as of the recording of this open house. And we would like for you to reflect how you're going to keep the attendees safe here on this portion of the form. And then you click submit and you get this, you're done. And this means not that you have a permit, it means you are done with your portion of this process, and we will now start circulating for the signatures. And I believe we're going to, if you can go to the next slide, we'll talk about what happens next. Leonis, if you want to talk us through the overview and the next steps after the applicants submit their application.
Sure, can you hear me? Yes, awesome. So as mentioned in the 6-step process, item number 3, circulation and signature collection. Once the completed application has been received from the applicant, the application along with an overview cover sheet, which serves as a snapshot of the elements of your event, will be placed into a numbered circulation sequence. Up to 14 authorized signers will review the application for approval. But the actual number of signers that will review the application is determined by the city services being requested by the applicant. Christine?
Thank you, Leonis. For the next slide, Albert. This is essentially what the signers see throughout the city as it's circulated. So when you think about what happens after you do your part, which granted, based on how much I've been talking, you have a lot of work to do, right? As you go through your application, go through all those pages. It's a lot of work, but once you hit submit, then it's our turn to do our work, which is review. And these are all the signers that will need to review. It may be a few less depending on the type of your type of event you're having, but in general, all of these folks need to sign and review your application, so it does take time. Next slide. Amendments and cancellations, just to do a brief overview of this. If you need to amend your event, suppose you've planned to do this festival at Hamilton Park, and now you want to move to Riverview Park. You would email us, let us know about this change in writing, and then we will circulate an amendment, and an amended application would then go back to all the signers for their re-review and for their signatures again. So please, if you have any significant amendments to your event after you've submitted your application, please let us know as soon as possible, because people do need to re-sign an amended application. These significant changes, like I said, if you change location, that's significant. If you add a really large element to your event, suddenly you're going to have Suddenly you're going to have a Ferris wheel. If you're going to change the date, you decided, you know what, we really can't get it together in time. We want to postpone it a month. These things we need to know as soon as possible. If you want to cancel your event, again, send that to us in writing and we will cancel your permit. If you need to change the date due to weather, we need that in writing. Again, we want to make sure everything is coming from you and is not being misinterpreted by something you might have called and told us very quickly, and we heard something wrong and then we canceled your event inadvertently. That's why we really need it in writing, so that you are giving us the explicit instructions on how to handle the next steps of your event if there's an amendment or a cancellation. Great. Next slide. This is the amended application. Again, it needs to be circulated for signatures. Next slide. Same for the cancellation. And the next slide. Public safety meetings. If you're having a large event, you will be required as the organizers to meet with us and our public safety team. We put out the map of your event, we get your application, and we talk through all of the elements to make sure we've accounted for everything and that we completely understand what is going to happen on the day of your event. If your event is of the size and complexity that requires a public safety meeting to take place, Migdalia will reach out to you and will talk to you about scheduling that meeting on site at the Office of Emergency Management on Summit Avenue in the Heights. It's about an hour-long meeting. You will need to bring any of your lead coordinators and lead partners for the event. So if you are a nonprofit group and you're also working with an entertainment booker and you are partnering with a parks group, you know, the leads of all these organizations will want to be at the table. We do these about 3 to 4 weeks before your event. Next slide. After we have circulated your permit, you will receive a notification from Leotis, and I'll let him give an overview of what you can expect to receive from him.
Yes, the follow-up action email. After the application has completed circulating and is approved, you will receive an email with the fully signed and completed application attached. This email will also provide any follow-up actions you may need to take before your event, such as fees to be paid, submitting your food vendor list, or when to obtain no parking signs. Everything you will need to know to equip you with relevant information concerning your event. Christine.
Thank you. So that's a very important email to receive, and please keep in mind that there are steps you will need to take after submitting your permit. Next slide. Fees and scheduling. So next slide. These are the 2022 special event fees associated with events. Please note that they are subject to change and they can always be found on our website. And Lisa will tell you in a little bit where to find this on our website. You can refer back to it. Most of these fees have not changed. There is a food sponsor fee. So if you are hosting a festival and you have food vendors, you as the organizer will need to pay $100 as the sponsor fee. You pay that to the health department. And then each of your vendors will then need to pay their temporary food vendor fee. That's on top of making sure that they have their license through the health department. If you have any additional open flame, you know, a large generator, any of these types of permits that come through fire prevention, I noted some of them in the application. All of these fees would be generated through fire safety and you would pay to them. Once you note the elements of your event on your application, which I talked you through earlier, that will kick it over to fire prevention and we'll let them know that there's follow-up that needs to happen with regard to these fees. For police, there are If you're a nonprofit, that's $35 per hour per officer. If you have alcohol on site, even if you're a nonprofit, that becomes $55 an hour. And there are additional fees here if you're within a city-owned facility and we need to hire additional security. If you're going to use crossing guards, which are sometimes utilized for races or bike rides. Police vehicles for street closings. That means if you're actually putting a police car to do a street closure, not a police officer running a street closure. If it's a very long footprint, you need cars to help with the feeder streets. There are costs associated with that. There's an administrative fee and supervising officer fee. The Department of Sanitation, I noted earlier in the application, they have a list of fees. You can find those. We'll attach the updated list to the website as well once we have them. But those are the individual costs associated with each of those elements that you need. It's the street sweeper, which is required, your dumpster, your packer, if you're going to have a cleaning crew on site, if you need trash cans, all of those. And that is generated from the Department of Public Works. Parking enforcement is $10 per no parking sign, unless you can show them your 501c3 nonprofit IRS letter. And your carnival license is $25 a day. Your festival license is $200 per day. That would be paid directly to the Division of Commerce in order to get your permit to have your event. The bond. So the refundable bond is something that takes first-time organizers by surprise. So I always like to point out this expense because as you're planning your budget, please keep in mind that having an event, having a public event, costs money. It costs you money as an organizer. Now is the time to reach out to your networks, to ask for support, to have these events to cover these fees. Have a fundraiser, solicit donations, start preparing for this event season so that you can cover these fees. The refundable bond does take people by surprise the first time because it is $1,000. The $1,000 is if you are having a festival, you must pay that bond to the Division of Commerce. That is to guarantee that when we open the public space to you to give you permission to have an event, that you return it to us in the same condition. It's important for our shared public spaces and the residents of Jersey City. And it's important for us all to know that as we host these events, that the public spaces are not being damaged or compromised in the process. So it is refundable once you have your event, once you return the space in the condition you found it. That needs to go through a council meeting. So you will go to Commerce, you'll pay your festival, your fee for your festival license. If you are, you'll pay the $25 if you're a nonprofit or $200 if you're a for-profit, and you'll also pay that $1,000 bond. You get the $1,000 bond back after the city council meeting following your event, just to keep in mind for your own payment schedules and financial planning. The ABC special affairs permit or catering permit, depending on which permit you get, is also payable to Commerce. And that is if you're having alcohol as a component for your event. Next slide. Okay, the one thing that we don't have here, but I'm going to point out and make sure it's on the website, is the new fees associated with our stage. The stage has 3 different sizes. So I will read those to you. Those will be available on the website. The small showmobile will be $30 an hour with a minimum of 4 hours. So if your event is a 2-hour event, there is a 4-hour minimum. So that's $30 an hour. The large showmobile is $45 an hour with a minimum of 4 hours. And the main metal stage is $37 an hour with a minimum of 4 hours. Again, this will all be on our website. The rental begins at least 1 hour prior to the start of your event. So if your event is from 12 to 2, you're required to start paying for that stage at 11, and you will pay for a 4-hour minimum. Okay, so I know you've been hearing a lot of my voice. I promise you we are nearing the end and hearing other people talk, but we're going to go over frequently asked questions that we have here, that we hear sometimes coming to cultural affairs. I would like to have, here's our first frequently asked question. I would like to have a birthday barbecue for my son in Berry Lane Park. It will be a small gathering, no more than 15 people. I plan to rope off the area we are using. Do I need a permit? So the answer to this, if you're planning to have a birthday party and you have a small amount of people, it really depends on the park size, but I would say that 15 people in Berry Lane Park is a small amount of people. It does not require a permit. However, you may not rope off any areas ever for your events. The public space must always be open for public space. So if you're having a birthday party and you're having 15 people gather and you're gonna, have some cake and hang out in the park, that is regular use of the park, and we encourage you to do that. You may not say, here are barricades so nobody else can come into my area. If you would like to have a private space only for your birthday party, then you should look into private spaces that are rented out. If you're using a park, it must always stay open to public use. And that is for festivals too. The type of events that will not be permitted from our office will be, suppose you want to have a concert in Berry Lane Park and you want to have a ticketed event and you can only enter the park if you've paid the ticketed fee. We will not permit that. All events must be open and free to the public. So birthday party, 15 people, Berry Lane Park, you're good to go. You may not bring amplified sound, and anything you bring in, please take all of your garbage out with you when you leave. I would like to host.
And no grilling.
And no grilling. That's right. That's a great point. Yeah.
Right.
We don't do any cooking inside the parks. I would like to host a Halloween trunk or treat between 6 and 8 cars on Saturday, October 29th in the parking lot of the Apostle Church. How do I go about getting a permit? So if you're having a trunk or treat in a private parking lot, you do not require a permit. If you're having a trunk or treat on a city street and you need no parking, you're going to need no parking signs. You're going to be inviting the public out. You do need an event permit. It sounds on the surface like you're having a trunk or treat. You're just going to have some cars park on the street, that you don't need a permit. You do need a permit for that because you're inviting the public into the public space. And we want to make sure that that's well permitted. But if you're in a private parking lot, you do not require a permit. That being said, if you would like us to circulate a notification, we'd be happy to do that. That way, the event's on our radar, we can help you promote it. And if somebody says, hey, what's this event happening in this church? We can say, we know because they submitted an event notification with us. So we know that this is a trunk or treat and it's open to the public. Please go and have fun. Here's an example of a festival. You're a new food truck and you'd like to participate in this Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel festival. You've heard about it, you want to get involved, you're a new food truck and you want to get involved with it. How do you get the permit? So that permit is going to go through the health department and through the fire safety department. We do not handle getting your food truck safe for the road. That if you have a new business as a food vendor or as a food truck, you need to make sure that you have your permit through the health department and if the food truck, and make sure the food truck's inspected with fire safety. If you would like us to connect you to an event organizer so that you can get involved with an event, we'd be happy to do so. Those events are organized privately, so you are going to be connected either through our office or by looking it up yourself with that event organizer. So if you want to get involved with the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Festival, find that organizer and say, hey, I'm here, I'm a licensed food truck, please keep me in mind. And you can do that for any of the festivals that happen across the city. The city itself runs very few festivals. So if you're looking as a food vendor or a goods vendor, a lot of times, you know, I have a craft, or I have a, you know, I have a jewelry business I'd like to table. 9 times out of 10, we are gonna say, you need to reach out to that organizer and build that relationship. I'd like to host an outdoor movie night at Riverview Park to celebrate what's happening, you know, to celebrate my new business and give back to the community. We want to have, in addition to the movie, we want to have contests and games. We want to have a raffle. We'll also offer free food and popcorn, wine and soda. What do I do? This is great. This is a real complex one. So if you're looking to host an outdoor movie night, first and foremost, you need to have a nonprofit partner. If you're looking to do this in a park, we would probably recommend that you find who those park stewards are, right? So if there's a neighborhood association that is very active in that park, that would be your first stop to find a nonprofit partner, because they will know the neighborhood. They could probably recommend a great date. They could help you promote. So you would probably reach out to either the Parks Coalition or the park or neighborhood organization associated with that park and say, hey, we want to do this. And they could partner with you if you're not a nonprofit already yourself. Together, you would submit that application. You'd find a good date that works for everyone. You, of course, need to secure a reputable outdoor movie company. If you're going to have contests and games, like games of chance, you would need a permit with the state. So keep that in mind. That's for nonprofits that want to do raffles. They would need to do that with the state, register with the state. And if you have a food element, that will need to go through the health department. But if you're giving it away for free, we just need to know who that entity is that's preparing the food to give away for free, so that the health department can sign off on that. If they're selling the food, they would need to have that food they need to pay that food vendor fee, and you as the sponsor would also need to pay your food sponsor fee. If you're looking to have wine, you cannot have wine in the parks. You cannot grill in the parks. Keep that in mind. Soda, no problem. But if you're looking to give away wine for your movie night, just remember, we can't do that in the parks. You could do a street closure as part of your movie, and you could have people in a pen over on the street at an angle where they can watch the movie, I guess, but there are additional costs associated with that, including your ABC permit through the state. Okay, we got a couple more frequently asked questions. Will there be an updated list of categories and pricing for additional costs around the event? That I showed you a few slides back, and that will be available on the website, so you can refer back to that. Again, the biggest new expense would be the cost of the stage as of 2022, the cost of renting the stages. And there are some additional expenses that come out of sanitation regarding street closures, like to have roll-off trucks for your street closures, things of that nature. What's the time frame for executing a permit? So we want to have you and encourage you to submit your permit as soon as possible. Following the posting of this open house on our website, the 2022 application will be available. So let us know if you're ready by emailing Lisa and requesting your application to get started on the process. We ask for large events, give us as much time as possible. We really do want like 90 days for your big festivals, because there's all these different elements involved. 60 days is a good middle ground. If you're looking to have an event next week and you reach out to us, we are going to ask you to choose another date. We cannot circulate permits in a week. Remember that application that I showed you, the follow-up form, all the people that need to review and sign off, that is out of cultural affairs control. That really is dependent on everybody else who can review these, ask follow-up questions, make sure that we're all on the same page. So please give us 60 days, 90 days if you're having a festival, a very large festival. What documents do you need for the application process? Okay, quick review here. You're gonna need insurance. You're gonna need your 501c3 nonprofit paperwork. You're gonna need your site plan. And you'll need to fill out your safety plan. Am I missing any documents? Is that it?
License,
You're gonna need your license. Thank you. A photo of your ID front and back. Thank you. Anything else?
Did you mention?
Did you mention the determination letter?
Yes, the determination letter is your 501c3 nonprofit IRS determination letter to show that you are a nonprofit. What do I do if I want to have an event at a county park or a state park? This is great because a lot of times we will get a request to have an event at Liberty State Park. Liberty State Park is not under the jurisdiction of the city of Jersey City. We will need to put you in touch with the state park to do the permit process through the state. We do not handle events inside Liberty State Park. If you're looking to have an event in a county park, you can always reach out to us and we'll also put you in touch with the correct people to talk to at the county. The popular county parks that people come to us wanting to have events at are Lincoln Park and Washington Park. Those are the two big ones. They're inside Jersey City, or they straddle the Jersey City border, and those are county parks and they have their own permitting process. Okay, that's it for our frequently asked questions. Next slide. Next, I'd like to kick it over to Lisa Catania to talk you through our website.
hi, my name is Lisa Catania. I work in the permitting department as assistant supervisor and customer service associate. And you've just heard a lot of information. So we really want you to have events and we want to help you to permit them properly and give you the resources to do so. And a lot of the information we've talked about is available on our website. Our website is www.jerseycityculture.org. Once you go to the website, Albert, please, thank you. The page will pop up and you'll see a bunch of words across the top. The first one, about, you click on about and a drop-down box will come with different pages within the website. If you hit staff directory, you will get a list of all of our contact information. And you'll be able to reach out to us depending on what you need. The next thing you can do is on the same page, the fifth word from the right, next slide, please, Albert, is resources. Resources has another drop-down box with more pages, and you will see one that says special event permitting. The page will load and there's a ton of information that we've gone over on this page. There's the explanation of permit types. There's the event fees. There's a sample explanation, application. There's what to expect. So you can find all this information on this page. And what you basically do is review it. When you're ready to submit, to request an application to be considered, you send me an email. And my information, again, is in the staff directory and also on this page. And we will review the details of your event and get back to you with the next steps. There's also going to be on this page a link to this open house. So you'll be able to review this open house time after time, as much as you want to really sink into the process. And we're here to answer all your questions. So if you have any along the way, do not hesitate to contact me or anybody else within our team. So that's basically it. Good luck and feel free to contact me if you need to.
Thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tara Castaldo, who's going to talk you through how to promote your event.
Hello, this is Tara. I'm the person that you contact when you have completed and have a fully approved permit. I will assist you with your advertising for your event with our event calendar. It's published on our website. And not all events are qualified. So when you do get your permit approved, you send it over to us and we'll review it. And we'll let you know, as we look forward, we'll let you know if you've been approved for the calendar and start advertising for you. I look forward to hearing from you and helping you with all your event advertising and promoting. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Next slide, Albert. So for the day of the event, I just want to remind you, you've submitted your application, you have given us enough time to circulate it for signatures, you have maybe answered follow-up questions, you've gotten a follow-up email from Leotis, you've followed all the steps, you've hung up your no parking signs, you've paid your fees, you might have had a public safety meeting and come and sat down with us at public safety to talk through the elements. You get your final permit. You start promoting your event. It's up on the calendar for cultural affairs. We're telling everybody about it as well. And for the day of your event arrives, the weather's great, you're moving ahead, no cancellations, no amendments, we're ready to go. I just want to remind you, have a great time. Make sure you have your folks on site from the first element of that event that's set to arrive. If you're going to have a stage that arrives at 5 a.m., your folks should be there at 4:45 a.m. ready to receive them. If the street reopens after everything is removed, all trash is removed, all the vendors have gone home, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning, your folks are there to 1:30 just to make sure everything is completely taken care of, all questions are answered, everything is back to the way it was when you started. So start to finish, please be on site. We are here as a resource to help you every step along the way. And we wish you a safe and wonderful event. And we're really glad that you are putting time and energy into making Jersey City such a special place. Everybody across the state knows how well we do it here, how wonderful our events are, how culturally diverse our residents and organizers are. And we are proud to be a part of your vision. We are proud to work hard on behalf of you and the residents of Jersey City to make this such a special place. And we really look forward to celebrating with you. Next slide. And that's exactly what I said, we're looking forward to it. But also, please feel free again to reach out, review this video, check back with us, and let us know if there's any way we can help make this a smoother process for you. Did I miss anything, Cultural Affairs team? Anybody like to chime in?
I think you covered everything.
Got it? I'd like to thank Albert for being our tech wizard today. Thank you, Albert.
Good job, Albert.
Great. So anything else, we're at 201-547-6921. Our main email is culturalaffairs@jcnj.org. Our website is jerseycityculture.org. Thank you for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you this year at your event.